chapter 29, of Course in Miracles. It's entitled The Awakening. We're beginning this new chapter today. And the section is called The Closing of the Gap. The first paragraph, Bonnie, would you like to do that first paragraph?
The awakening, the closing of the gap. There is no time, no place, no state where God is absent. There is nothing to be feared. There is no way in which a gap could be conceived of in the wholeness that is His. The compromise, the least and littlest gap would represent in His eternal love is quite impossible, for it would mean His love could harbor just a hint of hate. His gentleness turned sometimes to attack, and His eternal patience sometimes fail. All this do you believe when you perceive a gap between your brother and yourself? How could you trust him then? For he must be deceptive in his love. Be wary then. Let him not come too close and leave a gap between you and his love, through which you can escape if there be need for you to flee.
Sounds interesting, kind of, doesn't it?
Yeah, how much, you want to do just this much.
It's just so, yes, and isn't it, it's just so true. It is how we experience our relationships. It's like, okay, I'll be here, but I just want to make sure there's an escape route, just in case things don't work out the way this is really interesting.
Not only with our brother, but also with God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We might ask for sacrifice and pain here.
And that's-
And I certainly don't want somebody else in charge of me.
Yeah, right.
But I like the trust too, How could you trust him then?
Yeah.
As I shared in earlier class, trusting my brother and is just seems to be something I'm working through.
Kind of is our separation issue. It's the trust. With the lack of trust we have with each other is the lack of trust we have in God. It's our fear of God. So that's why we have to return by practicing trust where we don't have it right now, because of this very fact right here, that the truth is there is no gap in His love. It's always here. We're imagining that we can't trust each other and God, right? So, Hollis, you want to do the next one? The fear of God.
Here is the fear of God most plainly seen, for love is treacherous to those who fear, since fear and hate can never be apart. No one who hates but is afraid of love, and therefore must he be afraid of God. Certain it is, he knows not what love means. He fears to love and loves to hate, and so he thinks that love is fearful, hate is love. This is the consequence the little gap must bring to those who cherish it and think that it is their salvation and their hope. In other words, we all have love-hate relationships in this world.
And ego. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and ego.
And it's because of our trying to maintain a separate identity. You see, you do it with attack. You have to do it with attack, otherwise you're going to join. You have to set up a no, and that's the only way you can be separate. Otherwise you're going to join and kind of just be. And so we have to maintain this, and we think that's what we want. So that's why he says you love to hate, only because that's the only way you can maintain a separate identity. And remember, the ego has a life of it. It's got like a self-preserving program. you know, if I join, I lose the separate me. And so I've got to push this person or this situation away so I can maintain this me that I have made up. So that's what it means, because it's not that our real self loves to hate, and it's not in our right mind we would not love to hate, because it's depriving us of our identity. But when we have a false identity, it can't, can you understand that? A separate identity can't exist unless it establishes separateness. See, because if we're all one, there's no me and you, there's just us, right? So in order to maintain this identity that I've decided is my baby, that I've got to protect, I've got to make sure I push and stay separate. And you do that through hate, and you wouldn't do that if you were in your right mind. But we think that's a sacrifice to let this thing go, right? To join, really.